You don't need more discipline. You need to stop trusting your own empty promises. You promised yourself you would wake up early. Then you slept in. You promised yourself you would work out. Then you quit after a few days. You promised yourself you would change your life. And somehow, you still ended up living like the same old version of yourself. The problem is not that you don't know what to do. You know what to do. Spend less time on your phone. Focus. Start the thing you have been avoiding for months. You know all of it. You fall apart the second your mood shifts. A little tired, and you stop. A little bored, and you quit. A little sad, and you put it off. A little stressed, and you reward yourself. Then you call it, I just need more time. No. Deep down, you know it is not about time. It is an excuse. And every time you believe that excuse, the old version of you wins another day. Japanese-style discipline does not work like that. And to be clear, Japanese style here does not mean genetics or nationality. It means discipline built like a ritual, clear, repeatable, and hard to negotiate with. It does not ask if you are in the mood. It does not wait for you to feel ready. It turns action into a ritual so clear and cold that the part of you looking for an exit no longer gets a vote. If this sounds like you, hit like so I know you're here. And subscribe, because in the next videos, we're going deeper into discipline you can't betray so easily. Now, let's begin. Chapter 1. The promise you keep breaking. There is something more dangerous than failure. It is breaking promises to yourself so many times that you stop trusting your own word. At first, every promise sounds real. Tomorrow, I'll wake up early. Next week, I'll start going to the gym. This month, I'll get serious. This time, I'm actually going to change. And in that moment, you believe it. You feel the energy. You feel like the new version of you is close. You think this time will be different. Then, the next morning comes. The alarm goes off. Your body feels heavy, and your mind starts talking. Just 10 more minutes. I was tired last night. One day won't hurt. I'll start tomorrow properly. And you listen. Once. Then again. Then again. And after a while, you have not just lost a morning, you have lost a little more trust in yourself. That is the real cost. Not the missed workout. Not the missed study session. Not the wasted day. The real cost is this. You are teaching your brain that your word has no weight. Every time you promise something and do not do it, you are not just breaking a plan. You are proving to yourself that your own words cannot be trusted. And when even you do not trust your own words, do not be surprised when every new goal dies quickly. You speak, then you do not act. You promise, then you betray it. You commit, then you forgive yourself too easily. Repeat that enough times, and your brain learns. These promises are not serious, and that is when you begin living like someone who no longer trusts his own word. You write down goals, but you already doubt them. You make a plan, but deep down, you know you might quit. You say, this time is different, but part of you does not believe that sentence anymore. It has heard it too many times. This is why so many people cannot get back up, not because they are incapable, but because they have lost credibility in their own eyes. A person who breaks promises to himself too many times eventually stops believing any promise he makes. And when you no longer believe yourself, every motivational video becomes noise. You watch it, you feel fired up, but deep down, you still know you might quit. You still know that when things get hard, you will find a very reasonable excuse to return to the old version of yourself. That is what has to be cut off, not with another promise, but with a system that makes your promise harder to betray. Chapter 2. The hidden deal inside your discipline. You think you have discipline, but inside almost every promise you make, there is a hidden deal. I'll wake up early if I sleep well tonight. I'll work out if I'm not too tired. I'll do deep work if I feel inspired. I'll study if nothing interrupts me. I'll change my life if life cooperates with me. Do you see the problem? That is not discipline. That is a contract with an escape clause. You may not say it out loud, but you have already left yourself an exit. If I'm tired, I can skip. If I'm sad, I can stop. If I'm busy, I can delay. If I'm not in the mood, I can start again on a better day. And that better day almost never comes. Conditional discipline is not discipline. It is a weak promise with an escape route built into it. And that escape route almost always opens at the exact moment you need to prove who you are. That is why you keep losing. Not because you lack a plan. You probably have too many plans. Not because you lack tools. You have downloaded habit trackers, watched motivational videos, bought notebooks, saved posts, listened to podcasts. Not because you lack information. You live in a world drowning in information. The real problem is that you lack a promise with no exit. A promise that still stands when your mood changes. A promise that does not disappear because you are tired. A promise that does not shrink because you feel bad. A promise that does not die because life did not cooperate. Most people do not fail because they have no goals. They fail because their goals are too easy to negotiate with. And the moment you start negotiating with the part of you looking for comfort, you are almost finished. Because that part of you sounds very reasonable. It never says, I want to ruin your life. It says, you need rest. It says, don't be so hard on yourself. It says, it's just one day. It says, you still have time. It says, wait until you're ready. It sounds kind. But if you listen to it long enough, you will bury your life under excuses that sound kind. Weakness rarely arrives, looking ugly. It usually arrives as advice that sounds reasonable, and if you do not have a system to block it, it will beat you every day. Chapter 3. Japanese. Discipline begins where negotiation ends. This kind of discipline is not about screaming at yourself. It is not about forcing yourself to live like a machine. It is not about destroying your body and calling it strength. It is deeper than that, colder than that. It begins with one simple principle. Ritual replaces negotiation. In meditation, a monk does not sit down and ask, do I feel like meditating today? In martial arts, a student does not step onto the floor and ask, do I feel like practicing the basics? In the tea ceremony, each movement is not decided by mood. There is an order, there is a time, there is a place, there is a way. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Not because they worship rigidity, but because they understand something the modern world has forgotten. If you have to decide again every day, your emotions will always find a way in. When should I do it? How long should I do it? How should I do it? Should I do it at all? Maybe tomorrow. Every question is an opening. Every opening is a chance for the old version of you to return. Ordinary discipline forces you to fight your emotions every day. A ritual-based system removes the vote from your emotions. That is the difference. You do not try to win a new battle every morning. You design a system where that battle never gets opened. You do not try to become extraordinary in every moment. You create a structure so clear that the part of you looking for an exit cannot bend it. And this system has 5 simple parts. 1 action, 1 fixed time, 1 sequence, 1 minimum version, 1 backup rule for when everything falls apart. That is it. No drama, no more motivation. No more self-help book you pretend will save you. Because what you need is not more knowledge. What you need is a system that leaves you fewer places to hide. But before you build that system, you must understand something. Discipline is not extremism. Discipline is not sleeping 3 hours and calling yourself a warrior. Discipline is not breaking your body to satisfy your ego. A system that burns you out in the first week is not discipline. It is a performance of toughness. Real discipline does not destroy you. It trains you. It does not make you excited for 3 days and then leave you broken. It gives you a structure you can live inside long enough for the old version of you to stop coming back so easily. And if this system begins with 1 action, then the first mistake most people make is choosing an action that is too big. Chapter 4. Choose 1 action, small enough to obey. This is where many people fail immediately. They fail, and then they come back with an even bigger plan. They stop working out for 3 months, then announce, starting tomorrow, I'll train for 2 hours every day. They cannot read 10 pages, then announce, this month, I'll read 10 books. They avoid their work for weeks, then announce, from now on, I'll work 12 hours a day. They wake up at 9 a.m., then announce, tomorrow, I'll wake up at 3 a.m. It sounds strong, but most of the time, it is just emotion exaggerating itself. That is not ambition, that is intoxication. You got stimulated by a beautiful idea, and for a moment, you thought you had become a new person. But the new person is not created while you are excited. The new person is created the next morning, when the alarm rings and you still want to go back to bed. Weak discipline often hides behind giant goals, because giant goals make you feel like you are changing, even before you have actually changed. Sometimes, an oversized goal is just a way to avoid the small action sitting right in front of you. Talking about a new life is easy. Doing one small action today is harder. Inspiration can make you set a beautiful goal, but discipline only begins when that goal is small enough to survive a bad day. If your plan only works when you are excited, it is not a system. It is a good mood pretending to be a plan. You do not need to choose a whole new life. You need to choose one action so small you cannot argue with it. 5 minutes of meditation, 10 push-ups, 1 page of a book, 200 words, 10 minutes of studying, one specific task you have been avoiding. Do not choose 5 habits. Do not design a routine so long it looks like a fantasy. Do not turn day 1 into a revolution. That is the trap. Day 1 is not there to prove you are great. Day 1 is there to prove one thing. You can show up. If you cannot keep 5 minutes, do not talk too soon about changing your entire life. Start small. Keep your word. Then increase. In the beginning, the goal is not performance. The goal is to teach your brain, when the time comes, I act. No debate, no inspiration required, no need to feel ready, because real change does not begin with a dramatic declaration. It begins with one small action you do not betray. Chapter 5. The hour that does not ask permission. If you say, I'll do it when I have time, you have not committed. You are just hoping, and hope is weak. Hope loses to meetings, hope loses to fatigue, hope loses to your phone, hope loses to a warm bed, hope loses to anything that appears when you are weak. An action without a fixed time is easy to kill, because every day you have to decide again, when should I do it, morning or night? Before eating or after eating? Now or later? Should I wait a little longer? You think that is flexibility. No. That is an escape route disguised as flexibility. This system does not leave those doors open. It chooses a fixed hour and nails the action to it. Not because 5:30 a.m. has magic. Not because morning is always best. Not because there is one sacred time that works for everyone. A fixed time is not powerful because it is perfect. It is powerful because it does not move. In a monastery, when the bell rings, nobody holds a meeting with their emotions. Nobody asks, am I in the mood today? Nobody asks, did I sleep enough? Nobody asks, do I want to? The bell does not care that you are tired. The bell does not care that you are sad. The bell does not care whether your day feels easy. The bell does not negotiate. The bell does not comfort you. The bell does not ask if you are ready. It does one thing. It cuts off the bargain. And when the time comes, the ritual begins. At that exact time, you act. You do not ask your emotions for permission. You do not wait for your mood to agree. You do not let your tired brain open an internal meeting. The bell rings. You stand up. The time arrives. You begin. Not because you are strong, but because the decision was made before you became weak. That is the difference between a disciplined person and an undisciplined one. The undisciplined person wakes up and asks, do I feel like doing this today? The disciplined person wakes up and executes what was already decided. Chapter 6. The optimization that is really procrastination. Once you choose the action and the hour, your mind will not surrender immediately. It is clever. If it cannot negotiate whether you will do it, it will start negotiating how you will do it. Where should I sit today? Which app should I use? What music should I play? Should I do 5 minutes or 10? Should I read a physical book or an e-book? Which workout should I choose? Should I write on my laptop or by hand? You think you are optimizing. But sometimes, what you call optimization is just procrastination wearing smart clothes. You do not need more choices. You need fewer escape routes. Because the part of you looking for comfort does not need more freedom. It needs more fences. It has used freedom to delay for far too long. A good ritual should be almost stupidly simple. Same place, same time, same order, same way of starting. For example, wake up, drink water, sit in the same place, start the timer, do exactly 5 minutes, finish. Tomorrow, the same. The next day, the same. Next week, the same. Do not change the method just because you feel bored. Do not download a new app because the old one finally started demanding action. Do not search for another tutorial just to avoid the basic work. The more choices you have, the more openings the old version of you can crawl through. Repetition closes those openings. At first, your mind will resist. It will say, this is boring. It will say, you need variety. It will say you are being limited. But the truth is this: undisciplined people often demand freedom before they have earned the ability to use it. They want choices, but every choice becomes another excuse to quit. A disciplined person accepts one path long enough for the mind to stop fighting. Eventually, you no longer need to think. The body knows. At that time, in that place, that action. That is when the ritual begins to defeat emotion. But no matter how clear your ritual is, there will still be days when you cannot do the full version, and that is when the old version of you waits for an opening. Chapter 7. Never let the old self see a gap. There will be days when you cannot do the full version. That is guaranteed. You will be tired, you will get sick, you will travel, your family will need you, you will wake up late. There will be days when your mind feels like a room full of noise. And on those days, the old version of you will return quietly. It will not say, quit forever. It is not that obvious. It will say, just take one day off. It sounds reasonable. It sounds human. It sounds like self-care. But you need to understand this. One day off is not just one day off. It is the first time you prove that the new rule can still be bent. And once the old version of you sees that the rule can be bent, it will come knocking again tomorrow. The old version of you is clever. It does not need a big victory. It only needs a gap. One skip day, then 2 days of delay, then 3 days off rhythm, then a full week gone. Then you return to the old sentence. I'll start again on Monday. How many times have you lived that loop? Do not pretend you do not know. The undisciplined part of you loves starting over, because starting over feels clean. A new day, a new plan, a new version of yourself, a fresh promise that sounds good. But if every failure sends you back to the beginning, you become addicted to the feeling of starting, and you never learn how to continue inside the mess. Do not start over. Shrink it down. Starting over makes you feel clean. Shrinking it down makes you mature. If the full version breaks, do the minimum version. If the morning is ruined, do it before bed. If the day is ugly, still leave behind one small piece of evidence that you did not disappear. This system does not demand that every day be perfect. It demands that you do not vanish. If you cannot do 20 minutes, do 2 minutes. If you cannot read 10 pages, read 1 paragraph. If you cannot do a full workout, do 5 push-ups. If you cannot write 1,000 words, write 1 sentence. The minimum version does not exist to create a big result. It exists to protect the new identity. It sends a clear signal to your brain. I am still the person who shows up. I am still the person who does not quit. I am still the person who keeps his word, even when the day is not perfect. Do not be afraid of doing little. Be afraid of disappearing, because the day you disappear is the day the old version of you starts looking for a way back in. Chapter 8. Decide before you become weak. This is the next mistake ordinary people make. They only plan for good days. They assume they will always be clear-headed. They assume they will always have time. They assume they will always have energy. They assume life will politely step aside while they improve themselves. That is the trap. Life does not work like that. There will be days when your boss calls unexpectedly. There will be days when your child gets sick. There will be days when your car breaks down. There will be days when you wake up late. There will be days when your mood feels like garbage. And if you wait until that moment to decide what to do, you will almost always choose the easiest path. Do not trust your tired self to make the right decision. Do not hand control to the worst version of you. That version only wants to escape pressure. It does not care about your future. It only wants today to feel easier. So you must decide before that moment arrives, while you are clear. Before you are exhausted, before the chaos swallows you, write the rule in advance. If I wake up late, I do the minimum version. If I feel tired, I do the minimum version. If I travel, I do it in the hotel room. If I am sick, I sit and breathe for 2 minutes. If my morning schedule breaks, I do it before sleep. If everything falls apart, I still show up in the smallest possible way. The formula is simple. If X happens, I do Y. No thinking, no negotiation, no asking whether you like it. And remember this: discipline does not mean doing something stupid when your body is breaking down. If you are sleep deprived, You do not punish your body with a brutal workout just to prove your ego. You do the minimum version and return to a proper sleep schedule. If you are sick, you do not need to perform toughness. You sit and breathe for 2 minutes to keep the identity alive. If you are truly exhausted, your minimum version may be opening the book, reading 1 sentence, and going to rest. Not to create a result, but to keep the system alive. You are not preparing a plan for the perfect day. You are preparing a plan for the day you are most likely to quit. And this is what many people refuse to do. They only plan when they are inspired. Then when life hits them in the face, they sit down and say, "Today is not a good day. There is no perfect good day." There are only people who decided in advance, and people who continue to get dragged around by their emotions. When you have a rule, even for bad days, you no longer need a perfect day. And when that repeats long enough, the ritual begins to carry you. Chapter 9. The moment it stops feeling like a fight. At first, you will have to carry the ritual. It will feel heavy. It will feel uncomfortable. It will feel boring. You will need willpower to stand up. You will need to remind yourself to act. You will need to fight the second voice in your head. Imagine someone who begins with just 5 minutes of reading every morning. On day 1, he has to force himself to put the phone down. On day 3, he still wants to quit. On day 10, the old voice is still there, but it is quieter. On day 30, something strange happens. At that exact time, he automatically looks toward the book, not because he suddenly became extraordinary, but because the ritual has started to build momentum. The body has learned the signal. The space has become a reminder. The hour has become an anchor. The sequence has become a path. At first, you hold the ritual. Then the ritual holds you. This is when discipline stops being a battle. It becomes momentum. Low discipline means you have to drag the practice every day. Higher discipline means, eventually, the practice starts dragging you. You no longer ask, "Should I do this today?" That question begins to disappear. Not because life gets easier, not because you are always happy, not because you are never tired, but because the system now moves before your emotions do. Eventually, other people begin to notice something different. You do not talk more. You do not brag more. You do not post empty motivational quotes. You just show up more consistently, more quietly, more steadily, harder to move. And that begins to make people uncomfortable, because your consistency reminds them that many of their reasons may have been excuses. Chapter 10. When discipline becomes identity. The final goal is not to complete a pretty streak on a calendar. The final goal is to become the kind of person who no longer wants to betray himself. At first, you act because of the goal. You want to look better, be richer, be healthier, be more focused, be more confident. Then you act because of the promise. You said it, so you keep it. You chose it, so you continue. Then you reach a deeper level. You act because you no longer want to see yourself as the kind of person who promises and disappears. You no longer want to be the person who speaks beautifully on Sunday night and collapses on Monday morning. You no longer want to live like someone who always needs to start over. And eventually, if you repeat long enough, discipline is no longer just something you do. It becomes evidence of who you are. Every time you show up, you cast a vote for the new identity. I am the kind of person who keeps his word. I am the kind of person who does not disappear. I am the kind of person who does not let emotion drive. I am the kind of person who does what was decided, even when today is not convenient. One small action will not change your entire life immediately, but it creates evidence. And a person is built from evidence, not wishes. Everyone wants to be better. Everyone wants success. Everyone wants a life they can be proud of. But most people want the result without becoming the kind of person who deserves the result. They want a better body, but not the workout on tired days. They want financial freedom, but not the work when no one is watching. They want respect, but still keep breaking promises to themselves in private. You cannot live with weak patterns and expect life to hand you strong results. Life does not reward what you intended to do. It rewards what you repeat. When discipline becomes identity, quitting no longer feels like rest. It feels like betrayal. And that is when you begin to become the kind of person other people quietly fear. Not because you are loud, not because you are aggressive, not because you announce big things, but because you show up silently every day. No motivation needed, no applause needed, no perfect conditions, no emotional permission. People do not fear someone who is motivated. Everyone is motivated for a few days. People fear someone who can act without motivation. People fear someone who has cut off the negotiation with the part of himself that always looks for an exit. People fear someone who is no longer easily moved by a tired day, a bad mood, or a reasonable-sounding excuse. That is the quiet terror of real discipline. And if you are still listening, do not turn this into one more piece of self-improvement content you collect and never use. If you finish this and scroll to the next video, you are not growing. You are procrastinating with something that looks like growth. And that is the most dangerous kind of procrastination, because it makes you feel like you are moving while you are still standing still. Modern people do not only procrastinate with entertainment, they procrastinate with self-improvement content. One more video, one more book, one more podcast, one more quote, one more plan, but no more action. That is not learning. That is advanced procrastination. One small ritual done today is worth more than 10 motivational videos saved for later, because the video does not change you. Evidence changes you, and evidence only appears when you act. So your system does not need to be complicated. It only needs 5 lines. 1. What will I do? 2. What time will I do it? 3. What sequence will I use to begin? 4. If I cannot do the full version, what is the minimum version? 5. If the day falls apart, what will I do so I do not disappear? Now, do not comment, I'm ready. That is too easy to say. Do not comment, I'm going to change. That is too vague. A promise with no time, no action, and no minimum version is just emotion typed into a comment box. Comment your public declaration in this format. For example, I will read for 5 minutes at 7 a.m. for 30 days. If my day falls apart, I will still read 1 paragraph before bed. That is what a real promise looks like. A public declaration is not about chasing approval. It is about giving your promise a witness, a weight, a place where the old version of you cannot bury it in silence. Every like on your comment is a reminder that you made a promise in front of other people. After 7 days, come back and reply to your own comment with 2 words. Still here. If you break, do not disappear. Write. Reduced, not gone. Because that is real discipline. Not never having a bad day, but refusing to let a bad day make you disappear. As soon as this video ends, choose 1 small action. Only 1. Attach it to a fixed time. Write the sequence that starts it. Write the minimum version. Write the rule. If X happens, I do Y. Then leave your declaration below. Not to show off, but to prove one thing. From today, the part of me looking for an exit is allowed to speak, but it is no longer allowed to drive. You do not need more discipline. You need a system cold enough to shut down the negotiation before it begins. That is Japanese-style discipline.